bekhona amaculo esikholwa amakholwa
We are
bekhona
live.
amarasta was beating the drum, you know. So but the whole point is, I may have my stance about Christianity, but it does not necessarily mean. Yeah, greetings. Are we live now? We're just recording.
No, we are live. We are both live and we are recording.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
I'll continue this conversation. So yesterday I was in a gathering. Upotula itwasa elitize. I won't mention names. The graduator la kwamkhulu Abuna Ayale, who known as, we used to call him Abba Bakas. Anyway, umkhulu uyi Rasta. So this whole thing it's Rasta Sangoma outlook. Abakaliphi, I was at Abakaliphi. But bekhona inkonzo-ke izolo, there was a gathering of a graduation of an initiate. And she was leaving the school. But we were chanting songs, you know, the songs were a mixture of Rastafari, there was some songs from the Christian faith, you know, songs from Izayoni, songs from Obapostoli, so traditional Zulu songs, traditional Xhosa songs, traditional Tswana songs and Bapedi songs, and some songs were chanting in Egyptian, you know, some of the hymns were saying in Egyptian. So it was a perfect balance of the different approaches to faith that we have. Some were approaching from the Christian, others from the Kemetic, others from Isintuj. You know, it's not mixed. So, but it all just blended in a very harmonious way. And for me, that's exactly a great representation of Auset, you know, of Auset, of the divine feminine, because the divine feminine has children, and all her children don't all believe in the same thing and in the same way. Kodwa, we are united in the fact that we have the same mother. You can say Mother Africa if you like, but same one mother, and we all have different aspects and different ways of approaching spirituality. It does not have to be a battle. We do not have to always, we can debate about it, we can reason about it, but you don't have to fight about it. It does not have to be a
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like one doesn't necessarily cancel out the other. Okay,
yes.
Can you please greet the people? We are live, we are live, we are live.
Okay, wonderful. Greetings, everyone. We are here, and igama Menzi, Maseko, Menzi kagudu Maseko, ungcamane kubonye kaNdlovu, Ndlovu zidla ekhaya ngokweswela belusi, thina esabasa umlilo ngaphansi kwamanzi wavutha. Thina ekwathiwa ingonyama yethu ayiphume ngaphansi kwentaba ngoba ingonyama ziyambongela kanti ziyambongela. Omaseko ke labo ungcamane kantu. Ngihamba noMankosi. Nkosi, akubingelele.
Greetings everybody. Tamaku to everybody. My name is Nelly Nkosi. Umadlamini ungwane intombi yaselangeni. I welcome you all to another InHealing Sunday session where we help each other learn and educate ourselves and also unlearn certain things that we have grown up learning. Yes, so Tamago, and welcome to everybody. We've got Umoji on the Zoom live as well. Yes, and he will add his views and
Greetings, everyone. Moji, greet the people.
How are you guys? Thank you for the invite firstly. And yeah, it's good to be here once more. And we're looking forward to the engagements. Makosa Makulu.
Kulu, can you please take us through the breathing meditation and the pledge, please?
No problem. Let's welcome Zamalek Kizera Amlak first. If he's able, he can greet the people too before we begin. Amlak. Yeah, siyabonga, siyaphila mkhulu. We give thanks for your presence, Giza. We have Michelle. If Michelle is free to greet the people, she's welcome to do so. But if not, it's okay also to just listen. But if you want to, feel free.
Thokozani makhetla makhulu. Thokozani mina nonke. Buselani nabakhulu. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we are here as we welcome you in Ikhambi, Natural Healing. Today we are going to have a conversation about a natural force, better known as the Divine Mother, or Auset. They've called in through history. She has been called Isis, Auset. I read an Ethiopian book once upon a time. I think it was about the year 2002 or so. I read a book called by an Ethiopian, I don't know if he's an anthropologist, Nega Meslekia. And the book was, it was very poetic kind of book, but it was talking about, it was a critique on rulers, kingdoms and things like that. And then it also touched on the ancient feminine goddesses of ancient Ethiopia. And one of the great ones was called Aster. They called it Aster. And when I read about Aster, I thought it was Sumerian, and I thought it was Babylonian, and I thought it was one of those ancient Canaanites. It sounded like Astarte and all that. But the key word was Ast in all these different goddesses. And apparently in Ethiopia, there was one called Aster also. So Auset is known by many, many, many names, but we will discuss this. We will have a conversation, open conversation about attributes, the aspects of Auset, or Auset, the functions of Auset, the tools that you use to work with her, if you are a person that works with the oracles, or if you work with meditation, if you need guides, and if you need the different incenses or the different stones or the different metals, the articles of the practice, the spiritual practice that you may require. Let's have an open discussion about it. And we are also free to disagree on many things that we may say, and we are free to teach us, and we are free to teach one another. But for now, let us begin with our traditionally here Ikhambi, we start with a breathing exercise. So we just take a deep breath in and we hold it. Then we breathe out. Relax our shoulders, free the body, and take another deep breath in. Hold that breath. Allow our ancestors to be present. Open up a space and hold a space for the Divine Mother and the Divine Father to be here. And breathe out. Take another deep breath in. And truly be present, root ourselves in this place. Let our attention be clear and pure. And let the meditation of our heart and the words of our mouth be acceptable in the sight of the divine beings that we walk among. Take another deep breath in. Hold it. And then breathe out. Releasing all toxicity, all negative thinking, and all negative elements from the body, from all parts of our body, different bodies that we carry. Ashe, Ashe. Nkosi, you have anything to say to start us off? To start at
what's this, the pledge from Kun?
You have it, or you are saying I must read it myself?
Yes.
Shall I do it? Were you saying you have it? Oh,
no, I don't have it open.
Okay, all right. So Ikhambi, also we have this thing called the Healer's Pledge, because we do believe that the words that we speak are empowering to ourselves, to our communities, and to whoever is in earshot, those who can hear and feel it. These words, we say them to affirm. We affirm our presence in this time, and we affirm the work that we are doing, that it is a good work. It is a work for the greater good, not just for our own personalities. So we say the Healer's Pledge together. Usually unmute the mic. Anyone, whether live here or whether on the WhatsApp, whichever platform, you are just free to recite after me. So this is our code of conduct. We say, Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi,
we are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creators.
We owe our gifts to
nature,
our ancestors,
and the Creator.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We live by the principles
of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach
each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will offer
our advice, recommendation, and ideas
with respect.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither
dishonor nor abuse one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
We will share,
practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
Healthy lifestyle
and well-being.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from
posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi,
we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gifts are a gift to
humanity and nature.
We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given us.
We will give back to nature what she has abundantly given to us.
Ashe, Ashe. Kwamazwini Nkosi. Nani makhosazana, nani namakhosana. We give thanks for your presence here, everyone. May we just get into it and then begin. Maybe I can start with Nkosi and your reflections about Auset and this time, this season, and who Auset is to you. And then everyone will have a turn just to state what they know, what they've heard, what they've learned, or what they've experienced about this Neter who is called the Divine Mother.
So for me, what's this? Auset represents a lot of things, but at this current moment in my life, I think maybe Auset would have represented something different last year than now, but I'm more drawn towards the water energy, the water, like her being the Divine Mother who governs the tides of life, the waters and conception. I'm feeling that energy right now. And I think Menzi would understand why I'm actually more drawn towards that energy right now more than ever. So for me, at the current moment, life changes, just like
say
now.
That just say, open up.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. So at the current moment, I'm actually feeling the big energies of her and being like a water spirit, and I'm actually right now, before we started the session, we were actually talking Menzi about the importance of water and the rituals associated therewith, and I'm like, you know what, some have referred to water as the elixir of life. Our bodies are made up of mostly water, and we take it for granted, we take water for granted. We've seen Menzi, you would know and all the people that have been following the sessions, they would know how sensitive I get when we start discussing the pollution that has happened with water and everything that when it comes to how water has been used. And for me, I sense feelings, and yeah. when I think of Auset, not that she doesn't represent other stuff, but for now I'm more in tune with that with that energy. Yaga Auset.
Of water.
Yes.
Okay. Right. All right. But what does water represent to you? Give us a deeper levels here. Yeah, giving us surface.
For me, Menzi, water is very, very, very important. As I've said, with some say it's the elixir of life, But I also understand the fact that water alone is needs other elements for it to give birth to life, But you can't. There's a, like, when I think it's life, it's a life-giving force, in some way, and not just because our bodies are made up mostly of water, but when you require some form of cleansing, and when you've encountered certain troubles and you now require cleansing, you need that water, and when in some instances, for you to be able to channel your guides, you need water. And it also has some healing properties on its own. And I know a lot of people, we speak about herbs quite a lot, in our sessions. And however, the importance of water on its own has its own healing properties, besides you adding other stuff into it. And for that's water is very important. Last year we had a whole entire session where we talked about cleansing. We spoke about the different types of cleansing, and we actually didn't even go deep in terms of the elements when we speak about water, in relations to cleansing. We can go deep and talk about water and cleansing in relations to the ocean, in relations to the rivers, in relations to Impopoma. We see a lot of people going to Impopoma, but do we really understand the significance of going to Impopoma? Some in the West would call it a waterfall. I'm not sure what it's called in other languages, but you see Uhamba, we are in Popomen, and we also see Esizibeni. There's a certain time where you're required to, you shouldn't go to running water, but you need to go to Esizibeni to go and do certain rituals there. So Mochi Arike Pororo. Hey, I don't know if I just butchered a bit. Pororo.
Precisely there, go. Pororo.
Ooh, they're gonna kill me since I stayed with the Bapedi people for 2 years and I'm still pronouncing their words incorrectly. Hey.
Mochi, what is your take on Auset as a water spirit, if that is the right term to use, or as one who presides over the waters? Wanje, just give us your general take on Auset.
Nkulu, let me first start with this one of waters, right?
Yeah.
In creation, water is everything. For the 9 months of creation of a being, without the water, there's no creation. The Amen fluid. I actually read about it this week on Twitter. A person was describing water as the West calls it amino fluids. He was
we are not hearing Mochi very well there in terms of his line. I'm not sure if it's just me. Is it just me?
Hear him.
Element. I think it is very important. Am I still audible?
No, we lost you there when you said amino. Someone you read something on Twitter. Someone was describing it as an amino something, and then you disappeared.
Yes. No. So basically, before a woman gives birth, they'll say something about their water having broken. Okay.
Yes.
That is the water that we live in for the gestation period, right? And that the guys are saying that it is called Amen fluid, but our Western counterparts refer to it as amino fluid. So there was that terminology disparity, but I kind of understood where he was coming from when he said it was doctored from Amen. But water and Auset, being the woman element in the family unit, is the force that presides over that transition from a realm before this one into this one. That fluid, that water is everything. We cannot be without it. So that alone, when I'm cool, I think is critical. It's not over and above being critical, it's everything, okay? But my personal view on Auset market, there's an image in front of me that I want to share. It's gonna be like a 1 minute thing. Ishan, my thing was disabled, unfortunately, but
you have sharing rights, Mkulu.
Have I disabled? No, I'm disabled.
You could be sharing rights.
So what I wanted to share is an image of Auset, of Osa, of Heru, right? Oh, there we go. Share, right. Is that visible?
Yes.
Yes. So this year does not exist without Auset. Okay? We have the Father, the Son, and Auset. But for the Father to achieve the Son, we need to go through Auset. And this is a deity on which, let's use Auset as an idol in the family unit. This is a unit where an element where the family is anchored. So a home is made up of Auset as the anchor, as the center of it. That is why when they say that when umama is happy, the family is happy. And when umama is not well, that literally translates to the family is not well. And it comes in many ways, but just as an intro, that is my general take on this precious, mighty deity that we have being Auset.
Okay, thank you, Mkulu. You use very interesting words there, which I would like to revisit. You use the word amen, you use the word idol, and you use the word deity. I have some concerns about all the words that you used. Concerns does not mean negative. Concerns does not mean negative per se. I am just saying we will revisit in our conversation so that you can expand more. I know that the first part was someone else was mentioning that the amen and the amino and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
There's etymological correlations there. It's quite deep. And we will touch on the issue of idols. I think towards the end, let's touch on the question of idols. As we are engaged in this conversation, as I'm posting on Facebook, sometimes promoting this conversation, I often realize that I am talking to people who are used to seeing images as idols and idols as something really, really negative that we were warned against by the great one of Israel. You know, we were warned to not make an idol where you can bow or burn incense to and do whatever. Oh, manje, I'm burning incense, but there's no image of Auset that I'm burning it to. But in my mind, I'm burning jasmine incense because it is said to be the incense that correlates with Auset. And every single month, every season, I get an incense. In fact, I'm working towards acquiring my own incense, doing our own as Ikhambi, doing our own incense. I'm learning the science and the chemistry of herbs and what to mix and what to do, so that we don't have to buy them from India. We can or North Africa. We can just make our own. But the point I'm making is, all the words that you used are good to us, but to another viewer, they're looking from outside and like, oh Menzi seba konzi. So these titles are problematic to a lot of our people. But then maybe we may need to expand to see why these visual aids or these visual representations are important somehow. Amlak, what's your take on Auset? You understand, what is your knowledge? What does your knowledge tell you about Auset? Or any other name that you might prefer to use?
You know, I will never want to say a lot, but I'll divulge what I can divulge. Wasa, or what people will say Ase, or Mamusa, whatever they want to call her. But now, in this case, when we talk about Auset, we need to remember that there's attributes that she's identified, as far as we have already identified one of the attributes that has to deal with most of the principles, or what we can call them in this term, gods. The gods have the same attributes, the water attributes, a relation with the water, from their mother who will be Nut in the other cases of the moon, and then the father be Geb. Yes, in other cases of the myth, it's Nut, no Nun, no Geb. So it differs which case of mythology we are dealing with. But now when we are dealing with a character, we are dealing with a character that carries the chariot, or also not the knot, or the what you call a sachet. What you play it in inside your churches near Bingiman. Remind me, the sastrin that normally is played by inside the church. Yeah, the sistrum. The sistrum, it's a symbol, one of the symbol of Auset. Yes, and then a sistrum is used for music in Egyptian ceremony for vibrational sound frequencies. And then yes, and then she's identified as one of the magicians, you know, like mother of magic, healing, and mother of heaven.
Yes.
To use a sistrum, it is normally carried by women inside the temples. This is the temple ritual. The only person who carries a sistrum is a woman. Why it's a woman? Even in Ethiopian Orthodox, they use the similar pattern. We're going to Saret, why they have the biggest drum called Undongo drum. And then there will be a sistrum that is played by female converts, or what you call female zealous believers. And then these believers will, when they are playing the sistrum, to listen to a pattern of the sounds of your clap. And they have this pattern. They clap 3 times to 7 times, 3 to 7, or 3 to 4. It depends on the song they are singing. This is the Ethiopian pattern. And this is applied to the same pattern with the sistrum in African communities called shaker, or a shaker. And then this same shestrin, it's the sheka, it is used by the females. So it teaches you much about the quality of Auset, and regardless of looking into Auset religiously, but it teaches you much about her qualities in a communal-based society. And then in a family-based society, it teaches you that the harmony of music harmonize the sequence of the magic, since she's the mother of the magic. And then it takes back to where us that she's the when we go to the hymns, the liturgy, it teaches us about being the mother and the wife of Osar. I may use English names to be simple about this. Being the wife of Osiris and the mother of Haru, of Horus. And this teaches us that this person has interrelation with these qualities, or this, to use it in scientific aspect, like in chemistry. In chemistry, all chemicals consist of hydrogens, and then but which chemistry consists of 90% of hydrogen. It's not only identified, but you can only found it in a quality of a value of 108 centimeter height. That is the zinc, the silver. And then we can find that silver has one of the quality within Auset. But now when we see that vibrational frequency in explained, it gives you now that the relation of Auset or Isis, it's not only chemical compound, but it has bigger aspect in life. That bigger aspect of life is that she's known as the Queen of Heaven, or the Mother of Heaven, or the Goddess of Heaven. Though she can resurrect Osiris, meaning this is something that happens continually. Though she can give to Eru, this is something that happens continually. It's a perpetual system. But in that perpetual system, she's the embodiment of the gods, meaning the mother of the gods, the heavens, according to Tages and liturgy of Egypt. So it teaches us much that Auset, she's some feminine mother of magic who's helped by Nephith in this quality of act of betraying the sun, if we may put it like this. By betraying the sun, meaning they had to poison the sun with the snake in order the sun to give the secret of the power of resurrecting Osiris. So this has much of the greater details that when we study the details, we can see the quality of the power of the woman. But according to Babu Mzingizi, I would like to call her Unomkubulwan. That's the nice way to say it.
It's a shame. No, thanks for that. And I like that last part that you broke down about the issue of, I think, did Mochi raise it, or was I listening to someone else? Or was it Tukoko? Was it Nkosi? Someone raised this matter about the tricky part, tricking the Ra, the solar father, the father of the solar system, tricking him into giving up his secret name so that she can use those words to create her own magic, and that magic to not just only resurrect Osa, but to do other things. There were other things, healing powers that she received after tricking the sun. Like, if you can trick the sun, can you try really? Who can trick the sun besides her? But we look into that. And I like the part about Nomkubulwane also, because she also has a lot to do with water. For those who've gone through Ubungoma, maybe they can explain to us, Uti, unomkhubulwane ubaluleke ngani and kubaluleke ngani? What is the importance of water in all this, and what are the other names in our Nguni languages, or not Nguni but in our Bantu languages? What are the other names that you will relate to water, the divine mothers who live in water? What would you, or the feminine, not all of them are mothers, I think, the feminine powers that may live in water. What are the other attributes of these powers? Does our sister between Nkosi and Sister Michelle, I think there's someone called Michelle here. Do you have anything to say?
We lost Michelle, but she may come back. Yeah, we lost Michelle, but she may come back. I cannot speak from a standpoint of you know, because I think everybody's aware that I'm a herbalist, so
yes,
yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, but let me just my general knowledge. Even though I've done, you know, you can have many interactions with Nabangoma, but it does not make you a Sango. I've had interactions with Nabangoma and I've worked with them for many years, but in different aspects, mostly on a business level, trying to help them to set up their businesses and things like that, and their image and their branding and all that marketing stuff when I was still in KZN. But the point I'm making is, what you hear a lot about, you hear about people going to the water, but we do not have a lot of theory, or we don't have a lot of recorded message, how can I say, communication about what is it that, you know, there's a bit of reverence and a bit of fear related to the water. Uya manzini, wabuya nani, omunye wahambile wabuya egaxa inyoka, or omunye weyile manzini but wangabuya, they didn't come back after 7 days or 5 days. One disappeared for 3 months and never and came back after that. One disappeared for a period of time and never came back from the water. So there is a mystery here in Southern Africa with relating to water. There's issues also of what do they call the mame water? In Nigeria, they say mame water. What do they call it here? I know in Nigeria, it's Oshun, and amongst the Yoruba, there's many different water goddesses. Is Auset related to all these water goddesses? In amongst the Karanga, you have the snake, the great snake, who is also described as a woman in a feminine terms. The great serpent called Nyami Nyami. Nyami Nyami, maybe Mkulu Amlak it has some knowledge, or someone else here, about Nyami Nyami. So I'm trying to see, is there a connection, or should they be? If there isn't, we shouldn't force it. But if you say, if we say Auset is also equivalent with Nomkhubulwane, can you trace Nomkhubulwane up the Nilotic meridian? The name itself, you know,
okay.
Because if Nomkhubulwane is quite a powerful, I'm going to give you a chance now. Just if you say Nomkhubulwane again, you are speaking about a being who is half human and half animalistic, maybe fish, or half animal. Nomkhubulwane, Nomkhuba wesilwane. So it's a being who is human-like, but also has aspects or attributes of a particular animal. In a lot of things, in a lot of our Nguni culture, that is related with some kind of what's the word? Maritime, a maritime kind of animal, you know, a water-based animal which can also live in land. Can you expand on that, please? Before we go back to the science of water, just the scientific part. Let's talk about
me, my own issues to explain simple things. Nyame Nyame, it's a combination of two names, Nyamwe, Ngwamonwame. These two names, it's two entities.
Please say that again.
Two entities, Ngwamenwame. These two entities lived in Victoria River. So they identify with that name because they use that name to appraise with known by. But these are big giant serpent, if you want to call them like that. They have no relation to talk about Auset. When we talk about Auset, we are talking about the divine principle. It's not easily understood. So that is why it is said only the initiate will understand. Why they say the initiate will understand? One will see pictures of idols written in the wall, but the initiate will see a message written for them for a particular systematic talk, maybe electronic systematic talk or scientific talk or astrological talk or farming, agricultural talk or religious belief or ceremonial talk. But at the end of the day, the details into the image than a person who perceives the image as just. So, example being given, it's a knot, a symbol used by the Isis believers of Auset in Heliopoena's temples in Aswan. The knot is one of the symbols that is found there. It's called the ijat in Kemet. So this knot, it's still found in most system, like the tie. It's tied in a knot system, and then the hangman in ceremonial system of the Western mind thinking, and the knot can be found in Roman biology, and it can be found in Kabbalist and etc. Even in hexa, when you hex someone and make a shame, put it into all these. So she has a deep meaning than the person we have. But when then we can understand this meaning, because we can break them down into our way of life, our conduct. That's why she's not only a representative of water. Woman represent the moon, it doesn't mean only represent water, or when they have the water aspect. It's that 78% of everything around the galaxy evolves around the water. So water is in water elements of existence. So she may be the abstract from the water, because water has different forms of its existence. In its three-dimensional form of its existence as we see it, or what we call three solidal form of the water, and the icy, the steamy, the liquid part. It's the form of explaining that maybe she has part of those attributes, not all of them, but part of them to express for us. Yet I can never say them in the public, but this is secret knowledge. So it is necessary that we learn that there's a secret language being spoken here until we break it down into a commercial language.
Okay, give thanks for that. No, there's I'm reading up here before I ask Moji also to expand. The interesting thing here about this jet, or this jet or tayet, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. This knot, it is said that it resembles an ankh, but also if you break it down, they say that the word itself could be translated as welfare or life. But then they also say that some scholars have read that it was a bandage used to absorb menstrual blood. Now, when they say that, somehow I'm drawn to some teaching by Umkhulu Credo Mutwa, where he was speaking about certain water-based beings and their relation to the moon and their relation to the monthly. I'm just trying to remember where did I read this, whether it was in Daba or was it the Animal? I think it was called the Animal, the book, Isluan, where he links the issue, the menstrual issue of a woman to certain symbols that are created using cloth and skin and wool. And then he was relating it somehow with aquatic animals, but he was also aquatic beings, primordial beings, and with the moon. But I did not know exactly what was the relation. If anyone has any knowledge of that. But anyway, I was just raising this knot is also related to the stopping of menstrual blood. But then they also say that it was used to
because the knot, the same knot was used by the sisters of the Isis order, who are called the Siena, who use it to prevent menstruation. That is where we get the pentagenetic system of the Zars. The Zars, or you can get them in Moro civilization, also known as the Nubian civilization or Nubian dynasty, who practice the same Zar meaning the worship of Isis. So the worship of Isis has trace of this same knot being used as menstruational prevention. And then the same knot is used in different forms, but it's the symbol of this is a
sound-wise, you're not sounding great.
ISIS or ISIS follower.
Okay, cool. No, not noted. And apparently it was placed on the mummy of the deceased so that they to ensure eternal life, apparently. But these are just
we can go back to our understanding of life. Our understanding of life internally is that man, the origin of man, originated from the effeminate of waters of the secret light of the semen of man, and then he stand in the embryo of a woman. So in that case, it's that immortality, that the womb, remember, it's from the embryo. So there's a secret menstruation even in the bone. The calculation of it started from the menstruational calculation of woman's circulational system, not only by looking at the moon, but by looking at the woman's situation. So that is why a moon became a relevance of importance to it. That is why menstruation becomes, or what we call infinity of life, abundant life, becomes what we call a way of life, because what we call infinite or nehene, when we use concepts that are used in Egypt. So it's a nenehe, because the nenehe of the womb, we go to not Sutu as in brown, because some people misinterpret Soto with Sutu. Setu means brown, it's the color. And then the Situ, tu means the puti or pupu or puti or umkwetu. When you say this, meaning the vagina. I'm not going to be scared to call the name because it's not bad. It's saying vagina. And then when we say motu utswangte, meaning man where is from, a man is from the vagina. That is where we trace our origin and our infinity, our heaven. So she's a giver and the bearer of the royal son, meaning the breastfeeder of this royal son. She gave birth from her vagina. The son came out of the vagina of Nut. when not pass by in our understanding, when the mother dies, a child replace a mother. They will never get married with the father, no, but they replace the mother, meaning they sit in the mother's seat, and then they become what? The queen of heaven. That is why she becomes the mother of heaven, because now she gives birth to the new son, that is Horus, son now that has in the grip of his father. In old Egypt, that son was replaced during the fall, also known as the Isililo Saganum Kubulwane, as Babu Mzingisi will call it. And then in Sumeri, it will be called the cry of the lamentation of Aser, also known the lamentation of Isis in Egypt. That the same lamentation of Isis gave birth to a new son, or that new son gave hope to the new son that shall come, the resurrection of the father, Aser or Asar. So these talks teaches us much back again that Isis doesn't only represent just menstruation. Menstruation is a form of calculation, and in our society, it represents abundant life. Because the meantime you menstruate, there's more eggs that are going to come if you understand the principle of menstruation in feminine studies. These we get them in initiation in Africa, where I am from, where I am initiated, my ancestors. You are initiated as a woman into the system of Isis. That is why I can never tell into all these great details, because they are only told by women.
Nkulu has just spoken about, I'm not sure if we lost him or he's done speaking. Okay.
I think it's done for now. Continue. And then please don't forget to touch on the moon in your presentation there, Mankos, because he said a lot about the moon.
Umkhulu just spoke about something that Umkhulu Nsingeza spoke about during his introduction when we were welcoming the season, or when we were commemorating Isililo SikaNomkhubulane on one of the lives. He said something very, very important, that it is strange how the feminine energy right now has it's present day in 2022 has been reduced to like not important in some cultures, where you find that in some cultures a woman cannot anyega akhona ukuphahla. They won't be able to phahla on they won't be able to do certain rituals and how a woman in some practices has been reduced to just a servant, or a person who is meant to submit to a man, And he said that in our culture, especially in our African spirituality, the role of a woman is quite important. And he also spoke that during this time, there are certain rituals that can only be performed by women, and there are certain imipahlo that can only be performed by women because of their ability to tap into certain energies that the males can never tap into, and how certain things, how the female energy or the feminine energy has been reduced in terms of importance. It's so profound,
Can we speak about a particular a way of restoration? Is there a way that we can restore that?
For me, it's a matter of education. It's sad what we can speak about colonization and the effects of that have done and you know, but it's sad how we've lost a bulk of our knowledge. Taking into account that in terms of our culture, knowledge is passed through from one generation to the next generation to the next generation by the current existing generation, you know. So in that there was a break in that, and for us to be able, we need to heal that in a sense that we need to go back and relearn some of those things, because also I'm taking a leaf from last season's teachings, where we said that our practices evolved over time to suit to suit the current situation that we face as a species or as a nation. And at that point, we had like a complete cut off to our knowledge systems, and like imithetho yokhokho, you know, sometimes being English, it can be so limiting. Can I just speak in my language? Can I just speak in my language? Like ulwazi was passed on from one generation to the next, and there was a cut that we cannot deny, and certain knowledge was lost. And right now, when we try to revive certain knowledge, it's that we try to take over from where it was cut off, and that knowledge did not evolve over time to suit the current situation. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it didn't adapt to suit the current situation. That's why you find certain practices, they don't really fit in the puzzle, and we are unable to say, okay, I'm going to do things this way because this is how my ancestors did it, but forgetting that in terms of those circumstances, they did it that way because they were first faced with X, Y, and Z, which you as a person living in 2022, you are not facing those things. So therefore, you cannot say that you are going to take it as is and copy and paste it into 2022. So for me, from that's the issue of re-education. That's where it comes into play, that re-education, taking into account the circumstances that existed then, bringing them to now. I will make an example in terms of scarification and tattoos. You know, in some tribes, to make they scarred their bodies in terms of rites of passages, but also there was also scarification that existed from a standpoint where they were reacting to slavery. In some cultures, they were reacting to slavery in order to make them look unattractive to the slavers. And so therefore, I don't know if you can see the importance of understanding context in terms of certain practices. So yeah.
We get that definitely. So what you're speaking about is the issue of adapting or letting the culture evolve. I think it's even Steve Biko who spoke a lot about that, about the evolution of our culture should not depend on the colonizers' dictate. He says specifically that our culture should evolve according to our needs at that particular time, not according to what the colonizer or the settler may dictate to us. I would like to hear from Moji. Moji.
Cool.
Yes.
The moon aspect of Auset, yeah?
Yes.
My knowledge around it is, and I'm going to use the similarities in the, there'll be a I'm hoping I'll build a symmetry in our ordinary lives and how the universe is structured, okay? We have got, as I used in the image earlier, the Father, the Son, well, the Father, the Mother, and the Son. On this side, we will have the moon, the sun, and the stars. So we are taught that the moon controls the energy cycles that we experience on earth from the sun. All right. It is in control of the cycles of the stars. So in Anunian mythology, back in the days, in the olden times, our calendar was cyclic controlled. The reading was noted by the decans, which this is 3 sets of 10 groups of stars. They would come and sit on our night skies for 10 consecutive days, and then they'll make way for another set. They'll come, it will be the second set, and there'll be a third set that comes, and then there'll be 3 sets that illuminates our night sky for 10 days in a row, 3 times. And we are told that the moon controls this. So how we are to understand Auset's role as the moon this side, as the mother this side? The mother first gives birth to the children, okay, from the father's seeds, and governs the relations between the children and the father. You see, it goes back to that initial idea that the happiness in the house comes from the mother. When a mother is happy, the house is happy. This side as well, the moons decide the energies. When is it summer? When is it spring? When is it winter? And how we are behaving here on earth. During winter, there will be that drought, and the land will be barren, and the energies are controlled from that perspective. And then there is replenishment when spring comes, when summer comes. All those cycles are controlled from a moon perspective. So Auset as an icon, I understand her, or I relate to her that way, as the moon in the universe, and as the mother in our homes. And I'm hoping that makes sense from that point. That is the little sharing I would like to do with regards to Auset, the moon, and painting her as how do we mirror that in the house?
In the house. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Can I just touch on something before I ask Zamalek to speak?
Please do.
I would like to touch on this issue of Togozamkul. You know, I just want just a quick reading of what is said about Auset in the litany of the Neter. It says, "O she of many names, great one who is from the beginning, divine one, the only one, the greatest of the Neteru, queen of all the Sahu, most beloved of all that lives, prototype of all beings, queen of women, the female Ra, the female Heru, the eye of the sun, the hidden eye of Ra called Sopdet or Sirius, star crown of Harakte or Herukuti, queen of the Deccan spirits." Now, you've just mentioned Moji Heuti. The moon regulates the passage of these 10 stars, the Decans. Here in this glyph, she is translated to say that she is the queen of the Deccan spirits. That means now the star in the ancient Egyptian culture, the stars were not just stars. They had a spiritual significance, right? And this spiritual significance had something to do with the regulation of life on earth. Of course, we know about the appearance of the particular star, the Sirius system in the south, and its disappearance and its appearance in the north. Just let me continue a little bit. Star who opens the new year, lady of the beginning, occupier of now, by the way, the new year according in the northern, maybe perhaps above the equator. We are not talking about here. A star who opens the new year, lady of the beginning, occupier of the chief place in the bark of heaven. Now let's look at the image. When they talk about the boat of heaven or the bark of heaven, she is sitting in the front, So that means if you look at the Milky Way, like I sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, I go out and just look at the stars, the position of the Milky Way, where Milky Way is where in relation to Orion, for example, or where is the Milky Way in relation to in relation to the Pleiades, or Silimela, so to speak. And I look at all these different charts because we have charts, we have technology now. We can look at this thing in your phone. But when you actually look at them live, you start to realize the water that we are speaking about. It may sound like it's a mythology when you speak about the Nu or the Nun, but this Nun, this water, this ocean. When our ancient ancestors described boats in heaven, and they would draw them similar to the boats that they draw here on earth. They were giving us some profound everlasting knowledge there when they were showing us when these stars are moving, as the earth rotates like this in a particular way, and the stars are seen by us to move in a particular way. But the stars, remember, are still, it is us who are moving. And in our movement, we attribute certain powers and we attribute certain times. We can tell the season because what is moving is the heavenly body, which is called the earth. But then above, you can actually look at it. Our ancestors looked at the above as part of it, kind of like an ancient, like an ocean, as above, so below. There's an ocean above, there's an ocean below. But then even beneath the ocean, now San Kulma above the stars, there are certain things happening there. There's certain kind of control happening there also. And we as Abantu, we know we can gain certain powers and certain knowledge and certain wisdom from observing nature. And I'm talking about cosmic nature now, the celestial bodies, observing them properly and attributing the right things to them. Because sometimes I have an issue with us using the horoscope. My sisters and brothers who use the Western horoscope, they understand. I'm always arguing about that. Okay, it may be saying the right things, but is it saying the right things for you as umuntu? Is it are you getting the right references? Are you using the right name? Are you getting the correspondence between you and the heavenly bodies? Because now you're a heavenly body, but on earth. Between yourself and, are you getting the right correspondence? Are you getting the right correlation so that you can, so that we can order our life? Just lastly, let me just say this. It's from the Bible. I read somewhere, I think it was either in the book of Enoch or it's in the Bible. It says, "Oh Lord, teach us to number our days so that we can apply our hearts to wisdom." But then somewhere in that same chapter, it speaks about observing the stars. But then later in the chapter, you start to be told oracles. You should not use oracles. That dichotomy in the Bible where you find contradictions even in the same. Observe the stars, understand the stars, number your days so you can have wisdom, but don't consult the oracles. Maybe we are being warned against people who are, maybe you are being told who you should learn these things yourself rather than go to someone who's going to tell you what your stars are saying. Please, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. Mkhulu Zamalek or anyone? Or is he still here? Oh, yes.
Mine will be just to rectify ourselves. When they say she's the mother or a goddess ruler of the 10 Deccan,
yes,
spirits.
Queen of the Deccan spirits, yes.
Yes, they are not talking about a particular 10 stars. Deccan means 10, that's right. It's a Greek word of means 10, but not 10 stars. It means it's a 1 degree of a movement of the stars. When we moving around the sun, and then when we go to make a degree, it's 10 years. So they've used a Greek word to identify that 10 years. That is how astrology calculate. They calculate in decades.
I got you.
When they say she's the mother of deacons, they're talking about that 10-year calculation of that prominent power being dominant.
No, you are very clear.
In the sky or in our air or in any place. So I think we don't have to use these astrology and zodiac things because they are silly. I know most people haven't studied these things carefully. They just jump to YouTube videos and then you interpret wrong things out there in the public exposure. Because there's about 88 constellations, you know, and then these 88 constellations, then we always circulate them around them. They are busy. We're looking at them as if they are circulating as boats, as Baba Menzi put it, as boats written in Egypt. So when we talk about deacon and we talk about stars, we talk about the movement, and we know that this movement has particular priests. That is why they are called hour priests, because a deacon is identified as an hour in other talks. So these are talks that most people are not aware of, and they'll always misconfuse these things, and then they will the moon influence 10 stars, and the moon doesn't have any influence of the stars. That is another wrong thing. The only closest star that we have next to our planet in the Milky Way, since people are not even looking to our cosmology, in the Milky Way that we are in, the closest star we have is Alpha Centauri. That is intersharing with us, with our moon. They are intersharing our moon. So the Alpha Centauri it's the closest star, and it has its own constellational planets that are circulating around Alpha Centauri.
What about AC alone? What do they call it? It's AC Leon.
AC Leon, it's distantly, but
it's a bit further.
But the closest, yes, the closest star is Alpha Centauri. And
yes,
if the moon can influence a star, it can be that star since it evolves around that star.
Okay.
Through our own evolvement. When it evolves around us as planet Earth, it does have an influence of other places like that same star. But it doesn't have an influence of other stars somewhere. And what we can say is scientifically again, so that people don't take these Egyptian studies as a mumbo jumbo, as if they never have scientifical proof knowledge system. Egyptian chemists, they tell you directly that the moon distorts energy from the sun. It doesn't take energy, distort energy from the sun and omit energy from us. Meaning every distorted energy that it has stolen from the frequency of the sun through the 8 minutes 20 seconds of the rays of the sun to reach planet Earth, the moon has already distorted some of the frequencies. And with that distortion happened what we call climate change. That is why when you go,
absorb. Distort or
it doesn't absorb, distort.
Okay.
And then when it distorts, let's remember, distorting it because it has already absorbed through its own circulation. So the main full power of its existence, when it's in full, it distorts rather than absorb, because it has already done that for a long time.
Just 1 second. Sorry, what you are saying to me, I'm sorry, it's kind of reminding me of something. Before we read the messages from Facebook, we're going to close at 11:30 in 15 minutes time, but I'm going to give you a chance to finish your point. But I just wanted, what you are saying right now about the distortion, and I was saying absorption, and you're saying, no, it's not absorption. I read in the book of Enoch, I know the book of Enoch has some challenges, but in the book of Enoch, the prophetic book of Enoch, it says the moon takes on, the word that is used is the moon absorbs a seventh of the light from the sun and reflects it back to earth. And as it reflects it to earth, I don't know somehow, I can't remember the words verbatim, but I used to study the book of Enoch. But it was specifically, that chapter was specifically speaking about the phases of the moon and what is the moon's effect on the water bodies and on the body of human beings here on earth. And it says it absorbs, use the word absorbs, a seventh portion from the sun. What would you think that means, if anything? Maybe,
that's where, for me, it goes to what I'm explaining.
Okay.
And the explanation is that it's the distortion. That distortion, you can say, it gives away then to earth. It produces to earth so that it can influence our seas and so that it can influence our weather. But when we look at it carefully, the moon absorbs this energy when it grows and it distorts it because it has no use of it.
Okay.
That is why when we say we call the moon, using English to break people's stereotype down. When we call the moon, we call it loony. Why we call it a lunar? The word traces from lunatics. Why it's lunatic? Someone who's doing crazy things or jokes or comedy or loony, clowny shit. So that is why when we say someone who's influenced by the full moon, they are under lunacy. Go check that. It's a disease, no. And then when we say they are under lunacy, meaning they are under the clowny and craziness, because the moon doesn't have a lot of energy, just distort energy. It steals, it omits and distort. So in this case, it's not something that is prominently the source of energy.
Yes.
But the sun is the source of energy. And
Egyptian
and the sun
says nowhere does it say Isis is the moon. It's not there.
Nowhere.
She is described as Syria.
Yes, she's Sopet. She's only Sopet. That's what I know. The sun, it's identified as energy, that force of atom. And then that same energy, when we're given by the sun, it's from hydropolic energy, helominiac from their made inside the sun to cause the colorianus. The sun consists of that. And it consists of helominius, hydromin, helonians, hydrolos, helominatex, hydromin. These are water element-based heats. So when we want to talk about the influence of water, we need to look at the sun.
That's interesting.
And now we're not talking about Ra. I will leave it there. But I will continue with the moon, since we are in the moon and Auset. But trying to explain that the moon has no relation in our influence, but only in the influence of the menstruational of the woman. That is why it has a lot of involvement with the woman. And that is why izinyanga masiyilanda ngesizulu, inyanga kwakuwumfazi dala until the transformation of systems and the emergence of men being participants in such systematic order. So when we look at Inyanga being a female, we get to understand why Isis, mother of magic.
Okay, no, got you. I would like us to take some questions or comments from Facebook. Coco, we've got 10 minutes left.
Okay.
We need you. Yes.
So we've got Duke Meta saying, thanks for the importance of the lunar cycle and the stars. And then we have Tehuti Seket in his first message, he passes on greetings, lunar greetings of Heteru, Hotepi family. And then he goes on and he says, Auset corresponds to one of the tools through which behavior is programmed through the understanding of the law, in brackets ma'at. Such programming can be done at will. If we have the tools to program any desired behavior at will, then we can choose to allow only peace and pleasure to manifest as our emotional reactions to all events.
Okay.
That is.
I'm clear that he's using the wisdom as shared to us by Ra Unefe Amen from the Kemetic Tree of Life, or the Tree of Life theology there, which is quite interesting. I grew up knowing she's an aid in meditation. When you meditate, since it's the words of magic, some of us when we meditate, we say certain things and then we are quiet. And then when we finish our quiet meditation, we say certain things. I will not reveal what we say, but maybe on another session, we can just speak directly about meditation, and then I would involve the powers of Auset there. There's a great invocation in Auset. But I just wanted to also touch on something that I'm reading here. Because as we were speaking about the moon, I was also talking about Sirius. It's Moji who brought up this issue of decans. But now this decans, as Ulo Kuzane, Baba Zamalek is sharpening our understanding now about how we should understand the influences of the stars. Because sometimes there's a difference between a medium of calculation and an influencer. You see, a calculation, a way to calculate, it's just a way to calculate. I can see with nanti indonza gusa, or no nanti quasi, so to speak, or Venus, and then Venus, and something comes after Venus. I can tell what time of day it is. I'm merely calculating. I have not done any ritual. I've done nothing but observe the heavens and calculate it. But now I would like to recommend a quick site here for everyone, because I won't read the whole thing. There's a site here. What is the site called? It's called Tor Egypt. I think it's a site like Wiki. People contribute to it. Anyone can contribute to it. So a lady by the name of Caroline C. Wright wrote, Sobdet, goddess of Sirius, New Year and inundation. We all know inundation is the yearly flooding of the Nile. But I just want to read this part quickly. And I was going to ask Mkulu to say something about the dog star, because it's also called the dog star. But it says here, Sirius was both the most important star of ancient Egyptian astronomy and one of the decans. She's described as one of the decans, star groups into which the night sky was, this is in commas, inverted commas, the decans are the star groups into which the night sky was divided, with each group appearing for 10 days annually, as Moji explained. Now it says, the heliacal rising, the first night that Sirius is seen, just before dawn, was noticed every year during July, which is around the Egyptian New Year. And the Egyptians use this to mark the start of the New Year, which is when Renep, they call it Web Renet, or Web Renpet, sorry, the opening of the New Year. It was celebrated with a festival known as the Coming of Sobdet. Now, I'd like to just, again, touch on something very quickly. Among the Oromo people, between July and August, there's a festival which involves a lot of water, prayers by the waterside. People carry water in the basket into their home from the river, and there is some ritual to do with rain. Again, it seems like from ancient times until this time, the relation of the Sirius rising with the water, even if it's above the equator or traditions which are below the equator, there's this theme of water, either rainwater or water from below. Lastly, for real, Not just a goddess of the waters of the inundation, Sopdet had another link with water. She was believed to cleanse the pharaoh in the afterlife. It is interesting to note that the embalming of the dead took 70 days. That's a lot of months. The same amount of time that Sirius was not seen in the sky before its yearly rising. She was the goddess of fertility to both the living and the dead. Ashe. Coco, before I allow any last words from everybody, do you have anything to say, announcement, anything? And then we're going to have last words.
No announcement. It's just that we will announce the next session on our social. Please do follow us on our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook page. It's Ikhambi Natural Healing. But also in terms of the discussions that have happened today, I actually was thinking that there's an element that we didn't really touch on, and that's the destructive nature of some of the energy of Auset comes with, you know. And I'm just thinking about because everything has a duality, you know. Everything, it's the yin and the yang. There's a good part, and then there's the also.
I don't know any bad part about Auset.
Sorry?
I don't know any bad part about Auset, but I can learn.
The tides, you know, she controls the tides, you know, which might be a good thing, but also when you think about it, the destructive nature of how some tides can be in case the tsunamis. And when we speak of tsunamis, you know, the big, the big waves, you know. And yes. So for me, I almost feel like we didn't really touch on that, you know. And also we have spoken about the relationship of Auset and the moon, but as it relates to us as human beings in the physical, like in physical manifestation. And I will point in case for me in terms of because how you experience certain things when you're in the southern hemisphere is different from when you're in the northern hemisphere. And I'll make an example of this. When I moved from the southern hemisphere, which is where I reside currently, and moved to the northern hemisphere for a period of time, during that time that I was in the northern hemisphere, my body, literally the physical body, was not in alignment to the level that I did not even see my period. And the first day that I landed back in the southern hemisphere, that was the first day that I actually saw my period. My period literally disappeared for months while I was in the northern hemisphere. And then it came back on the same day that I landed in the southern hemisphere. So that also, you know, those aspects in terms of how it actually affects us from a physical, not just a spiritual perspective, like a physical manifestation of certain things, you know. But I think maybe we can touch on that in our next session while we're still in the season of Auset.
No, give thanks. In 3 minutes, Mkhulu, Zamalek, do you have any closing statements, Baba?
Yeah, what I will say is that we have already summoned it as a whole, that Auset represents the feminine aspect of the woman, and she's a caregiver of things, meaning taking care of the royal aspect of things when you put it into royal attributes. It's a language secretly communicate with the initiates. And what we need to do is to communicate more with ourselves so that we can to the ancestors, and the ancestors can introduce us to this mother. Because they might be the ones who are always feeding themselves with such knowledge, because the magic of Auset is needed in our life. And when we talk about negativity, there's no negativity of Auset, because the only aspect of her is to nature you, take care of ourselves. That is why she symbolized the throne and its higher symbol within your existence being. And the great Sanusi, he said, in Sangoma, when you initiated, you need to communicate with the great spirit, the feminine one. And then that feminine spirit, you need to let it come to you. And when it comes to you, to enter in you, because it natures everything around the world.
Powerful.
And he used the Zulu word to identify that feminine energy anyway.
Yeah.
Umbilini. Not umbilini.
It's not umbilini.
It's a
Umbilini, it's your spinal. But we are talking about the energy that is everywhere, that is Primeval Valley, everywhere. That he talks about it, that when they are dancing, when you are in your trance, you are summoning that energy. When you do the trance of prophesying and communicating with ancestors, you're summoning it. So you are using Auset. That is why it's magic.
I get it. No, give thanks. With those words, we give thanks to the great divine feminine energy of Auset. And we wish everyone a great Sunday and a great week ahead. May you gain knowledge of self. May you gain knowledge of your God self, and make sure that nature, you learn a lot, as much as you can from nature. And as we always have been teaching here, Ikhambi Natural Healing, let's learn the use of herbs and other healing natural properties for our own homes, so we do not run across charlatans and find ourselves in danger physically and mentally because we are busy chasing waterfalls when there are rivers close to us. Let us stick to our rivers and learn as much as we can from the sources of life that surround us, and let us learn to grow mentally, spiritually, and otherwise. Ashe, ashe. Siyabonga kakhulu for everyone who joined us. Nibe nosuku oluhle. Until we meet again, we're going to have a guest next time when we meet again, speaking about other aspects of water and healing. Ashe.